and our first speaker today is no exception to that. I'd like to introduce a woman who certainly is no stranger to anyone who follows sports in the state of Texas and nationally. A native of the small town of Goldthwaite, Texas, her skills as a high school and collegiate player were transcended only by her coaching career, which in one word, appropriately, is simply legendary. In 38 years as a collegiate head coach, Jody Conrad's players won an impressive 900 games, and more importantly, 99% of them graduated. As only the second woman ever inducted into the Springfield, Massachusetts Nasmith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame in 1998, Coach Conrad is known as a pioneer, but she's also a durable, dynamic, and ethical leader who gave credibility to her sport during 31 years as head coach with the Longhorns. So please, everybody, let's put away all those alma maters from all those other schools and give a big old hook 'em horns to the Hall of Fame basketball coach, Jody Conradt.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Great job. Thank you. Good morning. This is exciting. It's sort of like the Super Bowl, the Final Four, all wrapped into one. And as I think you're probably wondering, what does someone involved in sports have to do with what you're doing today? But I think the world of sports sort of transcends a lot of other things. In sports, we call successful teams champions. In business, you call successful teams high production. So there are a lot of things that we can relate to in regard to everything that we do in today's life. Many of you might have been athletes, many of you probably were not, but I would suspect that every one of you has someone who's close to you that played sports, and it might be a little someone that's trying to figure out how to be a part of a team. And as I think about my opportunity to recruit some of the very best players across the country, I think about their talent, obviously. But I think one of the most important things was to identify those intangible qualities, the personality traits, the things that make people special. And I really believe that those same qualities are the ones that determine whether a person is going to be successful or not. And I've identified about 3 of those. But let me give you a couple of things to think about before I get into that. I heard a story about a basketball team that was playing, and at halftime they go into the locker room. The coach gives a very rousing halftime talk. And the team comes back onto the floor after halftime, and everywhere the official goes, one of the players starts to follow him around. Well, obviously the official's pretty puzzled by it all. He stops play and he says, "Young man, why are you following me around?" He said, "You're supposed to be guarding someone on the opposing team." And the player responded, "Oh no, my coach told me to get with the person who was hurting us the most." So I think we all have to determine what our adversity is. And it's important when we identify successful people that the first quality I look for is commitment, intensity, focus. There are a lot of ways to say it, but it all means that what you do is very important to you and it shows. And right along with that goes enthusiasm. There's nothing worse than coaching a group of people where there is no enthusiasm. Passion means you love it. And that means that you're going to infuse enthusiasm when you go into a group. You always wanted to have someone on the bench by you that when you sent them into the game, they could change the momentum. They could bring energy and they could bring enthusiasm, and that spread to other members of the team. But I also think in business and sports, we all know that there are going to be times when things don't go really well. There are going to be losses, there are going to be failures, there are going to be disappointments. And I think we learn through sports and other issues that you can use that as a motivator. I don't believe people really find out what they're about or what they're capable of until they face adversity. And that adversity takes lots of forms. Years ago, we were able to win a national championship at the University of Texas in women's basketball. And the unique thing about it is it was a team that was perfect, 34-0. That doesn't happen very much in sports. In fact, you may think UConn or Tennessee was the first team to do that. Let me tell you, it was the University of Texas had the first undefeated national championship team. And there were 6 seniors on that team, and it was wonderful to celebrate with them. But you know what? I don't think about that championship, that I don't think about what those seniors went through for the 3 years before that year. Because every year they were seeded #1. They were supposed to win. They were ranked #1 in the polls. And every year something would happen and we would lose. Either it was injuries or the luck of the draw, or we just wouldn't play well at the right time. And the ultimate humiliation was in their junior year. We're seeded #1 when tournament time comes around. We're supposed to win, and to make it even more dramatic, the Final Four is going to be held in the Irwin Center. And thousands of people had bought tickets all through the season knowing that their team was going to win a championship. Well, the luck of the draw sent us to an obscure place called Bowling Green, Kentucky. And with 1 second on the game clock, a player from Western Kentucky turned and shot. The ball goes through the hoop, and we lose 90-92. That was humiliating. It was failure. It was disappointment. Not only had you disappointed yourself, but you disappointed those thousands of people who had bought tickets because they thought their team was going to win a championship. And I very vividly remember going to the Irwin Center, sitting in the stands with our team, watching 4 other teams compete on your floor, and the ultimate disappointment was watching someone else climb on a ladder, cut down your net when they win. But you know what? The next year, when that team came back, there was a totally different feeling. There was a motivation to get past that disappointment. And it was so unifying because nobody cared who got to score the points. Nobody cared who got their name in the paper. It was all about team. It was what can we do to move forward. Yes, national championship, perfect season. It didn't happen without adversity. I think the second quality I look for in a player is everybody has to find a role for themselves. And we all envision ourselves in the glamour role. But if you think about your organization, your business, your group, your club, you know that the people who do the tedious things, the little things that nobody noticed, actually are critically important. The national championship team, there was a point guard. She was not very tall, 5'4". That's short by basketball standards, as you know. She couldn't jump. She wasn't a very good shooter. She wasn't particularly fast, and I'm always glad she's not here when I tell this story. But not only did she lead her team to a championship in a perfect season, she won the highest individual award that a basketball player could win. She won the Wade Trophy. How did she win it? It was obvious to the people who voted. It wasn't her stats. She averaged less than 5 points a game. So she didn't have gaudy stats. But to me and to everyone else, it was obvious that when she was on the floor, everyone else on the floor performed better. Isn't that the greatest compliment a boss or a manager or a coach can say about someone? Because of my presence, my group performs better. And the last quality I think is really important if we're going to be successful team members is that we have to have extraordinary communication skills. To me, that doesn't have anything to do with being able to stand in front of a group and speak. In fact, it doesn't have that much to do with talking. It has more to do with listening and to sensing and to feeling what's going on around you. I've had a lot of conversations that go like this. A player comes into my office after practice, she's almost in tears, and she'll tell me she can't get her game together, she's not doing well in her classes, and she's generally homesick and miserable. And then she'll say, and the reason for all of this is I cannot live with my roommate another day. And my response is to inquire why, and she'll say, well, she throws her clothes all over my side of the room, and she's on the phone all night long, and he plays music so loud, and I buy food and put it in the refrigerator, and she eats it. And my response is always the same. Have you talked to her? Her response is always the same. Oh no, I couldn't talk to her. She might get mad at me, or she might not like me. And I think that indicates what happens to some of our organizations. It's not the big issues. If it's a big issue, everybody knows about it. PA announcements are made, emails are sent out, committees are formed, and everybody tackles the big problem. But more than likely, it's something that happens between individuals, something that the person who works side by side with you does that irritates you, that keeps you from being focused, that keeps you from doing your job the way you can do it. And it becomes increasingly important if we're in a group that we have the ability to go to our individual team members, our individual partners, our people who work shoulder to shoulder with us, and be able to work out little things, to talk about little issues before they become big issues and disrupt our team. You know, everybody envisions themselves as being passionate and energized, but it's extremely important. Everybody has to find a way to contribute to the team. That role player, they may start out as all freshmen do, even though they've been highly recruited and hundreds of coaches have told them how great they are, and if you come to my school, it'll be just like high school. You'll be the star and play in the Olympics and the WNBA and be the best player in the world. The game starts where the freshmen, usually sitting at the end of the bench. And I know they're sitting there thinking to themselves, I know I can play better than the people that are on the floor if only this woman would let me get in the game. And I know their second thought is, and I know the only reason she doesn't let me play is she doesn't like me. Because that's always a good reason and a good rationale when things don't go the way we'd like for them to go. But the resourceful freshmen, the ones who are observant, they figure out how to be ready when called on, and then their performance makes them invaluable to the team. So I think those are all simple things. I think they're all common sense things. I don't think they apply only to sports. I think people who are going to be successful are the people who understand how to use the team around them, and through that effort, they still have the ability to show their own individual skills. I couldn't think of any professions or any situations in today's society, even as much as we're into technology, I think all of us are dependent on other people to look good. I don't think there's any job I could think of where you work totally in isolation. From beginning to end, you're the only person that has an impact. So if that's the case, then being a part of a team and knowing how to interact with those team members and how to develop great communication skills is essentially determining whether or not we have a championship team or whether we're an also-ran. I heard a story about a guy who was lost, and he was out in the country on a country road, in the dirt road, and it was raining, and he slid off into a ditch. He was helplessly stuck in the ditch. He doesn't see anything around. He starts to walk. He finally sees a house. He goes to the house, knocks on the door, and an old farmer comes to the door. And he said, "Sir, can you help me? My car's in the ditch, and I can't get it out. I don't know who to call." And the farmer said, "Yeah, I can help you. I have a mule. His name is Warwick, and he can do it." So they walked down to get the mule, and when the guy saw the mule, he went, "Oh, this mule is 100 years old. His back is swagged. He's not going to be able to get my car out of the ditch." But he had no other choice, so they go back. They hook up Warwick to the car, and the farmer starts to say, "Go, Fred, pull, Bob, come on, Red, go, Warwick." And the mule pulls the car out of the ditch. The guy is pretty puzzled. He says, "How did that happen? And why did you start calling out all those other names?" And the farmer said, "Well, you know, Warwick is almost blind, but if he thinks he's part of a team, he can do just about anything." So I see you this morning as a part of a team. Thank you. A group of people who've come together with a common purpose. That's my favorite definition. So I think if you apply that to your everyday lives, to what you do, and to this particular gathering, then I think you can have so much fun, because I can tell you personally that individual achievements are great. You feel really good about it. But they are amplified in so many ways when you share that success with people who work with you. And I believe that we all have an opportunity today to be a part of a team. But you can't be a successful team unless you're a good team member. And you have to be a good team member in order to be a leader. We all want to be leaders, but it starts with showing that you are committed, that you will do whatever it takes in whatever role, and that you are willing to confront the hard issues, that you're willing to go to your coworkers and say, these are the things that you and I need to do to improve our ability to be successful. So I'm really excited. It's always fun to talk to people, and particularly women, because you know, I chose a non-traditional role. All of my coaches were men. In small schools, they hire 4 or 5 football coaches, and then they draw straws. And the long straw drives the bus, and the short straw coaches girls basketball. I didn't see anyone who looked like me. But I loved playing, I loved being a part of a team, I loved competition. And suddenly the paths opened, Title IX came along, it changed all of our worlds, and I think we've all now understand the importance of team. And I think sports is something that unifies us all. So today I really appreciate the part that I've gotten to be a part of your team. And I hope you have a wonderful day. I think it's energizing to be in a group with so many women who are motivated to know what it takes to be successful. So in my mind, you're already well on the path to being a champion, and I think you should celebrate it.